The night drifts softly over a vast, ancient plain, a land cradled between two mighty rivers that have flowed for millennia, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Their waters shimmer under a sky scattered with stars, tracing paths across the heavens as they have since time immemorial. Between these rivers stretches the Fertile Crescent, a land where life first whispered itself awake, where the human spirit took tentative steps toward civilization, and where the rhythms of nature and water began to shape the story of humanity. Long before the rise of kings, temples, or monumental cities, there were people who wandered this land, guided by the river's pulse. They were gatherers, hunters, farmers in the making, and dreamers of the first dawns. They followed the rivers, not knowing fully why, yet sensing in their gentle currents the promise of life. Every season brought with it the rise and fall of the waters. Floods could swallow the fields, and yet the same waters deposited a thick layer of dark, fertile silt, nourishing the soil to be ready once more for seeds to take root. Life and death were intertwined here, inseparable, a constant reminder of the delicate balance that existed between the human heart and the vast world around it. In those earliest days, life was raw and elemental. The sun blazed overhead, and storms could strike suddenly, yet there was a strange beauty in that uncertainty. Each dawn painted the sky in soft hues of pink, gold, and rose. The wind whispered through reeds that grew along the riverbanks, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and the faint tang of fish from the river. The people learned to live with patience, observing the cycles of water and sun, understanding that the world was alive, and that they were only part of a larger, unfolding rhythm. Homes were simple, built from mud and reeds, shaped carefully by hands calloused from labor. Clay walls absorbed the warmth of the sun during the day and radiated gentle heat through the long, quiet nights. The smoke of fires curled upward, mingling with the scent of the river, creating a cocoon of life where families could rest. They slept on mats woven from reeds and grass, feeling the soft pulse of the earth beneath them. Attuned to the quiet rhythm of existence, seasons passed, and the first villages emerged. Clusters of homes grew closer together, forming shared spaces where people could exchange food, stories, and ideas. Simple shrines dedicated to unseen forces appeared, their shapes modest, yet heavy with meaning. In these gatherings, people began to create the first sense of community, the understanding that together they could endure what alone they could not. And in this stability, the human spirit began to flourish. Imagine standing on the riverbank as twilight descends. The air is rich with the scent of wet clay, smoke, and the faint sweetness of ripening grain. Children run among the reeds, their laughter rising and falling like the gentle current of the river. Somewhere, a potter shapes wet clay into vessels, his fingers moving slowly and with intention, forming shapes that will survive long after his hands have grown still. Elsewhere, a woman spreads freshly baked bread on a mat, its aroma mingling with the evening air. Each simple action carries weight. Every movement, every sound, every breath is a part of a growing story, the quiet hum of civilization being born. The rivers themselves were teachers. The people watched the waters rise and fall, learning to read the signs of the seasons, predicting the movement of fish, the growth of crops, and the return of rains. They learned the value of patience, of careful observation, of cooperation. And as they observed, they began to mark the passage of time. They noticed the moon cycle, the wandering of planets, the patterns of stars. The heavens became a map, a guide, and a source of meaning. From these observations grew the first glimmers of belief. The people began to sense unseen forces moving through the world. Winds, storms, floods, and harvests. And they gave them names. They created gods to personify these powers. The sky god Anu, the storm god Enlil, the goddess of love and war, Inanna. They shaped small figures from clay, carved symbols into stone, and offered grain, fire, and song to honor the forces they could not see but deeply felt. The night sky, once a silent expanse, became a canvas of story, myth, and memory. As belief blossomed, so did invention. They discovered how to mold clay into bricks, how to bake bread over fire, how to weave reeds into baskets and mats. They traded, shared, and learned from one another, exchanging not only goods but ideas. They began to measure, to record, to count. Their hands, guided by the mind, transformed raw materials into tools, shelters, and art. Each small act was a step toward mastery of the world, yet it was also a meditation, a mindful engagement with the earth, the river, and the sky. And then came writing. From simple tallies pressed into soft clay, the people developed cuneiform, the first true system of writing. It began as numbers, as records of grain and trade, but soon became symbols capable of conveying stories, prayers, and history itself. The marks pressed into clay were not only practical, they were permanent. They carried memory beyond a single life, preserving thought, culture, and dreams for generations to come. Through these inscriptions, the people of the rivers gave humanity its first voice, the first echo that would resonate through time. Daily life was quiet, yet rich with subtle textures. Families prepared food together, grinding grain into flour, shaping it into bread, roasting fish over fire, and brewing simple drinks from dates and honey. Children learned skills by watching their elders, weaving reeds, shaping clay, carving wood. Elders recounted stories of the past, tales of floods, heroes, and gods, their voices weaving threads between generations. Every sound, every gesture, every glance was part of a tapestry of life, woven carefully over decades and centuries. Over time, villages became towns. Temples rose as monumental ziggurats, massive step towers that seemed to reach toward the stars themselves. Priests climbed to their summits to observe the heavens, marking time and recording celestial events. They believed the motions above reflected the movements of the divine, guiding the lives of humans below. The streets hummed with life, merchants selling pottery, metalwork, and woven fabrics, artisans crafting jewelry and tools, scribes inscribing clay tablets with prayers, laws, and stories. Each act was a note in a symphony of existence, delicate and eternal. Yet, even as civilization grew, the rivers reminded the people of their humility. A sudden flood could wipe away weeks of work. Drought could threaten their survival. They learned to respect these forces, to live in harmony, to seek balance. Dikes, levees, and canals were built, not as triumphs over nature, but as instruments of coexistence. Through struggle and observation, the first understanding of stewardship, of harmony, emerged. Nightfall brought reflection and wonder. Beneath a sky heavy with stars, families gathered near fires, telling stories of gods and heroes, of floods and creation, of kings who ruled with justice and wisdom. The rhythms of the river, the wind, and human speech intertwined. Every story became a bridge between the past and future, carrying lessons, memories, and hopes. In this quiet, the people discovered their place in the cosmos, as both observers and participants, small yet infinite. The land itself held memory. Every brick, every pottery shard, every tablet carved with symbols spoke of humanity's awakening. These objects endured, testaments to lives lived, dreams dreamed, and the tireless pursuit of meaning. The river's flow, the sky's pattern, the soil's richness, all became part of a story that would one day reach beyond its place of origin. And as the night deepens, the rivers continue to flow, silent and eternal. The reeds sway, the air grows cool, and the stars drift slowly across the black sky. People sleep, wrapped in the warmth of fire and family, their dreams intertwined with the land that nurtured them. Somewhere, a mother hums a lullaby older than memory. Somewhere else, the soft lapping of water against clay reminds the world of its ancient pulse. The awakening lands are not a single moment. They are a gentle, unbroken breath, the first heartbeat of civilization, the soft beginning of history, and the eternal song of life taking root. Sleep now, in the embrace of these rivers, as they whisper the story of of the first dawn, the first harvest, the first dream. The land remembers, and through its memory, so do we. This is where humanity began, between the two rivers, beneath the eternal sky, in the awakening lands. The rivers have settled once more. The waters of the Tigris and Euphrates, which once swelled and raged across the plains, now flow gently through a land reshaped by time and human hands. The flood has receded, leaving behind a layer of black, fertile soil, rich with the promise of life. And in this quiet aftermath, the first seeds of civilization awaken, reaching toward the sun, bending to the wind, and holding the weight of humanity's earliest dreams. The people who remain after the flood are not the same as before. They are wiser, more deliberate, and yet filled with wonder at the vastness of the world that surrounds them. They have learned patience and respect, understanding that life is fragile, that the river is both giver and taker. They plant their fields with care, choosing the right time for sowing, guiding water through simple canals, and waiting for the harvest that will sustain them through both abundance and scarcity. Every action is measured, every movement intentional, as if the land itself is a teacher, guiding them toward understanding, balance, and harmony. The earliest settlements have begun to coalesce into more permanent structures. The simple huts of reeds and mud now form compact villages, each home built close enough for families to speak across courtyards, yet distant enough to allow space for crops and livestock. Fires glow in the evenings, casting long shadows on the walls, illuminating figures of children playing, elders instructing, and artisans at work. The smell of baked bread mingles with the scent of wet earth, and the soft murmur of conversation rises and falls like the gentle flow of the rivers. Life is slow, deliberate, and quietly beautiful. The people of this land begin to understand the power of observation. They notice the subtle changes in the sky, the patterns of clouds, the behavior of birds, the shifts in the current. They mark the passage of time with the moon, the sun, and the stars, slowly building a calendar to predict the cycles of planting and harvest. From these observations, they learn that patience is not only necessary for survival but also for understanding the world around them. They begin to see themselves as part of a greater whole, intertwined with the rhythm of the earth, the water, and the sky. From these small, practical beginnings emerge the first sparks of culture. People begin to sing songs while they work, invent melodies to soothe children, and create patterns in clay and textiles that tell stories beyond words. They carve simple figures of animals and gods, each piece imbued with meaning, each mark a record of thought, belief, and imagination. With every creation, the people assert a small measure of control over a vast, unpredictable world, leaving traces of themselves for the generations to come. The flood, though destructive, has also brought opportunity. In its wake, the rivers deposit layers of silt that nourish the soil, creating fields that yield abundant harvests. The people learn to channel the water, guiding it through ditches and embankments to ensure that each season brings growth. Irrigation becomes an art, a careful balance between the generosity of nature and the ingenuity of human hands. Farmers tend to their fields, observing the young shoots, the bending stalks, and the first ripening grains, speaking to them softly as if their words might coax life from the soil. With food more reliable than before, the population begins to grow. Villages expand into towns and towns into early cities. Among these early settlements, names emerge that will echo through history: Eridu, Uar, Uruk, and Kish. Each city is a testament to the determination and ingenuity of the people who built it, rising from the black soil like islands of permanence in a sea of plains. Streets wind between homes, markets begin to hum with trade, and the first public spaces allow people to gather, celebrate, and share knowledge. At the center of these cities, the first temples begin to appear. Simple at first, constructed from mud bricks and reeds, these sacred spaces grow larger, reaching skyward in step towers called ziggurats. From their heights, priests observe the heavens, tracking the movement of the stars and planets. They interpret these celestial motions as messages from the gods, guiding the people below. The connection between sky and earth becomes a central element of life, and religion intertwines with daily existence in a quiet, pervasive way. The gods themselves are many and complex. Some govern the rivers and the winds, others oversee fertility, harvests, and the cycles of life and death. The people offer prayers, songs, and sacrifices, seeking guidance and protection. They create rituals and festivals that mark the changing seasons, the planting and harvesting of crops, and the passage of time. In these practices, they find rhythm, purpose, and reassurance, a sense of order in a world that can so easily slip into chaos that as life becomes more settled, the people begin to innovate. Clay is molded into durable bricks for homes and walls. Simple tools are refined: sickles, plows, and hoes make agriculture more efficient. Pottery is fired and painted, not only for practical use but also as a medium for artistic expression. They trade with distant communities, exchanging grain for stone, copper for wool, knowledge for skill. Each act of commerce carries with it more than goods. It carries ideas, stories, and connections that spread across the land. Writing, which began as simple tallies in the mud, evolves rapidly in these cities. Cuneiform script is pressed into clay tablets, recording not only economic transactions but also myths, laws, and histories. Through writing, memory becomes permanent, and knowledge transcends generations. Stories of gods, kings, and heroes are preserved, becoming the first literature of humankind. Through these tablets, we can still hear the voices of people who lived 5,000 years ago, whispering across time. The social structure becomes increasingly complex. Leaders emerge, not solely through force but through wisdom and stewardship. They guide irrigation, trade, and construction, mediating disputes and making decisions that affect the lives of many. Laws are codified, establishing rules for behavior, property, and justice. These early systems lay the foundation for governance and the concept of society itself. Communities flourish as people recognize that collaboration and fairness sustain life more effectively than solitude and conflict. Despite the growth of cities and systems, the connection to nature remains profound. The people still measure the seasons, observe the stars, and respect the rivers. They understand that survival depends on harmony, a balance between human ingenuity and the natural world. Their rituals and festivals are reminders of this connection, moments of reflection in which they give thanks for the bounty of the earth and the protection of the gods. Even in daily routines, there is mindfulness. Women prepare food with care, grinding grains and baking bread. Men work the fields, tending to irrigation and guiding the plow. Children learn skills from parents and elders, weaving reeds, shaping clay, and observing the world attentively. Every action is imbued with purpose, every task a quiet meditation. In this way, life is slow, deliberate, and deeply connected to the rhythms of the world. Art flourishes alongside practicality. Pottery is decorated with geometric patterns and images of animals. Small figurines of gods and humans are crafted for both worship and beauty. Music fills the air during festivals and gatherings, sometimes simple chants, sometimes more intricate melodies with drums, flutes, and stringed instruments. Dance accompanies song, creating moments of communal joy and celebration. These expressions of culture are not separate from life. They are life itself, an inseparable part of human experience. The rise of Sumer also brings scientific understanding. The people study the movement of the stars and planets, correlating celestial events with seasonal cycles. They develop rudimentary mathematics to measure fields, track grain, and organize labor. These early insights, while practical, hint at a growing curiosity about the world, a desire to understand not just what happens, but why it happens. Knowledge becomes a treasure as valued as food or water, a tool to navigate both the natural and social landscapes. At night, under the vast Mesopotamian sky, life continues in quiet harmony. The rivers reflect the starlight, the wind whispers through the reeds, and the people rest in the comfort of their homes. Elders tell stories of floods, of the first kings, of gods who shaped the world and humans who shaped their own destinies. The words are soft, melodic, carrying wisdom, wonder, and a gentle reassurance that the world is ordered, beautiful, and enduring. Even as centuries pass, the memory of the flood lingers. It is a reminder of both the fragility and resilience of life, a symbol of transformation and renewal. From its aftermath, the first cities grew, and with them, the first forms of organized society. From the river's patience, humanity learned the art of observation, adaptation, and stewardship. From the skies, they learned wonder and the pursuit of meaning. And from one another, they learned collaboration, empathy, and the quiet joy of shared existence. In these moments, the Sumerians awaken fully as a civilization. Their lives, though simple by modern standards, are rich in rhythm, beauty, and purpose. Every brick, every tablet, every song, and every ritual carries the echo of human ingenuity and devotion. Their story is not merely about survival. It is about the emergence of culture, knowledge, and the enduring human spirit. And so, as the night deepens over the rivers, the land rests, calm and fertile. The people sleep under the stars, dreaming of the days to come. Tomorrow, the rivers will flow again, the fields will grow, and life will continue, shaped by the wisdom of those who have learned to live in harmony with the water, the soil, and the sky. The rise of Sumer is not a sudden event, but a slow unfolding, a gentle crescendo of human endeavor that whispers through time, inviting us to remember the first steps of civilization. Sleep now, carried on the murmur of rivers, the rustle of reeds, and the distant songs of the first people who lived in these lands. Their legacy flows through time, a quiet and eternal testament to the awakening of human potential, the rise of cities, and the enduring beauty of a world that learned to nurture life from the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates. This is the land of beginnings, of hope, of the first civilization. This is Sumer, the heart of Mesopotamia, alive in memory, in soil, in story, and in the gentle hum of history itself. The night in Sumer stretches endlessly, a deep, velvet sky scattered with countless stars. Each point of light twinkles like a secret, a whisper from the past, and for the people of the first cities, the heavens are alive. The stars are not merely distant suns. They are the gods themselves, shining across the sky to guide, warn, and inspire. In the quiet of the riverbanks, in the glow of fires in small homes and towering temples, the Sumerians look upward, seeking patterns, stories, and the unseen forces that govern their lives from earliest memory. They have understood that the world is alive with power. The rivers that nurture the soil, the wind that bends the reeds, the sun that warms the earth, all are expressions of divine will. They imagine gods who shape these forces, gods who speak in the language of the elements, and they learn to honor them with ritual, song, and sacrifice. Anu, the god of the sky, watches from above. Enlil, the storm god, moves unseen through wind and cloud. Inanna, goddess of love, war, and fertility, walks among mortals, shaping destiny in ways that are mysterious yet deeply influential. Each deity embodies the mysteries of life, and each inspires stories that will endure for millennia. The Sumerians are storytellers as much as they are farmers and builders. At dusk, families gather near hearths or under the shade of reed awnings. The elders speak softly of events that happened long ago. The creation of the world, the first kings, the great flood that reshaped the land. These stories carry lessons, warnings, and wonder. They teach respect for the natural world and understanding of human responsibility. They guide the hearts of children, preparing them to participate in the unfolding rhythm of life. The sky itself becomes a canvas of divine narrative. Patterns of stars are interpreted as signs from the gods, guiding planting, harvest, and celebrations. The Sumerians note the paths of planets, the waxing and waning of the moon, and the changing constellations. These observations are not only practical but also poetic. The movement of the heavens is mirrored in the rituals of the cities, the cycles of human life, and the passage of time itself. The night sky is a bridge between the mortal and the eternal, a reminder that every life is part of a larger story. In temples, priests and priestesses dedicate themselves to interpreting these signs. They record celestial events on clay tablets, inscribing the movements of stars and planets in careful cuneiform script. They connect these observations with myths, noting how the gods influence rivers, crops, and the fortunes of kings. Through these records, knowledge becomes permanent. The people learn that writing is not only a tool of commerce but also a conduit for understanding the universe, a method of preserving divine wisdom for generations yet to come. The mythology of Sumer is rich with tales that blend human experience and divine action. The creation stories tell of a world formed from the mingling of fresh water and salt water, of gods fashioning humans from clay to serve the needs of the divine. These narratives speak of relationships between mortals and immortals, illustrating both the power and the responsibility of humankind. Heroes and kings, guided by gods, demonstrate courage, wisdom, and devotion, providing examples of virtuous living for ordinary citizens. Every story is layered with meaning, teaching respect for life, nature, and the sacred. Rituals are the heartbeat of the cities. Festivals mark the planting and harvest of crops, the rising and setting of stars, and the favor of the gods. People gather in temples, carrying offerings of grain, fruit, and crafted goods. They sing songs that echo across courtyards, chant prayers that rise with the smoke of burning incense, and dance in patterns that mimic celestial movements. The celebrations are both joyful and meditative, reinforcing the connection between human communities and the divine forces that sustain them. Art and symbolism accompany these rituals. Sculptures of gods, animals, and mythic creatures are placed in homes and temples, reminding people of divine presence in daily life. Pottery is decorated with symbols representing fertility, protection, and cosmic harmony. These objects are not merely ornamental. They are practical and spiritual, tangible expressions of belief, and tools for focusing thought and intention. Through creation and observation, the people of Sumer learn that beauty, utility, and meaning are intertwined, and that art itself can serve as a bridge to the divine. Every family, every household participates in this sacred rhythm. Children imitate the actions of elders, learning songs, prayers, and gestures that link them to both the gods and their ancestors. Mothers and fathers teach practical skills alongside spiritual awareness. How to tend a field, how to weave, how to shape clay, and how to observe the sky. Through these lessons, the knowledge of the cosmos, the land, and the divine flows seamlessly from one generation to the next, ensuring continuity of culture and understanding. The gods are also active participants in the cycles of life. The people recognize that their fates are intertwined with divine will, that the flow of the rivers, the success of the harvest, and even the health of their families depend upon balance and reverence. Prayer and ritual are not superstitions but conscious acts of respect and attentiveness, a means of harmonizing human action with the natural and celestial forces that govern the world. Each offering, each song, each careful observation is a dialogue with the unseen, a meditation on existence and responsibility. Even as civilization flourishes, the Sumerians never forget the lessons of the flood. They understand the fragility of life and the power of water. They build dikes and canals not only to survive but to honor the delicate balance between human effort and natural force. Their cities rise from the plains, but the rivers remain sovereign. They are nurtured, respected, and watched with constant care. This relationship between people and the environment becomes one of the earliest forms of stewardship, teaching the importance of coexistence, adaptation, and humility. Music and dance are integral to this spiritual life. Soft flutes, drums, and stringed instruments accompany chants and songs, reinforcing the communal bonds that sustain the people. Dance often mirrors the movement of stars and the flow of rivers, transforming celestial and earthly rhythms into corporeal expressions of devotion. In these moments, the boundary between the human and the divine seems to dissolve. The city, the land, and the heavens pulse together as one, in a quiet, enduring harmony. Through these practices, the people of Sumer cultivate both knowledge and imagination. They record astronomical observations, invent new tools, refine irrigation techniques, and create enduring works of art. They explore the boundaries of their understanding, constantly asking how the world works and what their role is within it. Curiosity becomes a quiet, persistent force, driving invention, art, and spiritual reflection alike. The stories told in this time are vast, layered, and poetic. The myth of Inanna's descent to the underworld teaches lessons of courage, sacrifice, and the balance of power. Tales of heroic kings emphasize justice, wisdom, and leadership. Creation myths remind the people of their origins and their responsibilities, blending the tangible realities of farming, trade, and governance with the ethereal mysteries of the divine. Every story carries the weight of meaning, the echo of generations, and the quiet beauty of human contemplation. Evenings are serene and reflective. Families gather around fires, telling and retelling the same stories that have passed down through generations. They gaze at the stars, sensing connections between distant points of light and the river below. They understand that each life is part of a larger narrative, that every thought, every action, every ritual contributes to the rhythm of existence. These quiet practices reinforce patience, empathy, and awareness, qualities that sustain the people and their civilization. Over time, these patterns coalesce into a culture of observation, reflection, and continuity. The temples, homes, and streets of Sumer become arenas for learning and experience. Daily life, from tending crops to shaping clay to chanting hymns, is suffused with a sense of purpose and connection. People know their place in the world, yet they also know that each action resonates outward, influencing both the living and the unseen forces that guide the cosmos. Through writing, ritual, art, and observation, the Sumerians established the foundations of history. They preserve knowledge, commemorate events, and communicate across generations. Their myths, though shaped by human imagination, are also rooted in careful observation of the natural world and the heavens. They teach respect for life, reverence for the environment, and humility before forces larger than themselves. The night deepens, and the rivers flow quietly, reflecting the starlight. The people sleep, their dreams shaped by stories, songs, and rituals. The land is alive with memory, each clay tablet, sculpture, and woven mat a vessel carrying knowledge, devotion, and imagination into the future. The legacy of Sumer is more than cities or inventions. It is a consciousness, a way of living attuned to the rhythms of water, sky, and human possibility. As the stars drift across the sky, and the river murmurs softly against the banks, sleep now, carried on the gentle currents of history. Imagine the first astronomers and priests gazing upward, recording the heavens and offering prayers to the gods. Sense the quiet devotion of families tending fields, singing songs, and shaping clay. Their lives, though distant in time, are intertwined with ours, forming the first enduring echo of human thought, curiosity, and reverence. This is the world of Sumer, alive with gods, stars, and stories. A civilization built on observation, devotion, and imagination, flowing softly into the night. Sleep in its memory, let the river's whispers guide you, and drift with the stars that have watched humanity awaken for thousands of years. The rivers of Mesopotamia continue their eternal journey, flowing gently across the plains, reflecting the stars above and carrying with them the whispers of countless generations. The land, fertile and patient, nurtures the first great cities of human civilization. Between the Tigris and the Euphrates, the flatlands that once welcomed wandering families now host bustling settlements. Life has become more complex, more structured, yet still intimately tied to the rhythms of nature and the flow of the rivers. Here, humanity begins to explore the delicate balance between freedom and order, between individual effort and collective governance. The rise of cities is not sudden, but a slow and steady unfolding. Small villages, clustered near fertile fields and irrigation channels, gradually expand into towns with organized streets and public spaces. Markets hum with trade, artisans craft their wares, and scribes record the ebb and flow of commerce on clay tablets. Yet these early communities are vulnerable, shaped by the dual forces of nature and human ambition. The floods that nourish the soil can also destroy crops and dwellings, while disputes over land, water, and resources necessitate structures of leadership and mediation. Out of these needs, the first kings emerge, men chosen not solely for strength, but for wisdom, courage, and the ability to guide their people. That a king in early Mesopotamia is more than a ruler. He is a steward of the land, a mediator between gods and humans, and a custodian of justice. His authority is often linked to divine sanction. Temples and priests validate his rule, and the people accept his guidance with reverence. The king oversees the construction of walls, canals, and temples, directs the organization of labor, and ensures that trade flows smoothly between cities. He enforces laws and settles disputes, balancing fairness with the practical necessities of survival. In doing so, he embodies the order of the cosmos, reflecting the harmony that the Sumerians believe exists between heaven, earth, and humanity. The cities themselves become centers of culture, learning, and administration. Uruk, one of the most famous early cities, rises with towering walls and sprawling neighborhoods. Within its streets, merchants sell pottery, textiles, and metal tools. Artisans carve intricate designs into clay, wood, and stone, while scribes meticulously inscribe records of trade, offerings, and decrees. Public spaces host gatherings, rituals, and celebrations, reinforcing social bonds and cultural identity. Each city develops its own character, yet all are connected by the shared lifeblood of the rivers, the exchange of goods and ideas, and the reverence for the gods who shape daily life. The physical and symbolic heart of each city is its temple, often elevated on a ziggurat. These step towers reach toward the sky, a bridge between the mortal and the divine. From their summits, priests and priestesses observe celestial movements, interpret omens, and advise the king on matters of governance and ritual. The temple complex is not merely a spiritual center. It is an administrative hub, a place where records are kept, grain is stored, and artisans craft objects for both worship and trade. The intertwining of religious, economic, and political life reinforces the centrality of order in Sumerian society. Kings undertake great building projects not only to demonstrate power but also to ensure the stability and prosperity of their people. Canals are dug to carry water to distant fields. City walls are constructed to protect against invaders, and temples rise as monuments to divine favor. Each project requires careful planning, coordination, and labor, reflecting the king's role as an organizer and protector. Laborers, craftsmen, and administrators work together, their efforts forming the foundation of civilization. In these collaborations, the people experience both the challenges and the rewards of shared purpose, learning to balance ambition with cooperation. Law and governance evolve alongside these developments. The king and his council establish rules that regulate property, trade, family, and criminal matters. Justice is both a practical necessity and a moral duty. Laws are inscribed on clay tablets, providing guidance and clarity for all members of society. The codification of rules ensures consistency, fairness, and predictability, creating a sense of order in a world that is otherwise governed by unpredictable rivers, changing seasons, and the will of the gods. The emergence of kingship also introduces the concept of legacy. Leaders strive to leave their mark through construction, conquest, and written records. Monuments, inscriptions, and statues commemorate achievements and communicate authority across time. In doing so, kings transform cities into symbols of continuity, connecting present generations with those that will follow. This awareness of history, memory, and influence becomes a defining characteristic of Sumerian civilization. Trade and communication expand as cities grow. Merchants travel between settlements, carrying grain, textiles, pottery, and metals, while exchanging stories, techniques, and ideas. These networks foster cultural exchange, spreading innovations and customs across the region. Cities flourish not in isolation but through interconnection, each contributing to a shared identity rooted in the land, the rivers, and the enduring pursuit of order and prosperity. The lives of ordinary citizens are deeply intertwined with these structures of power. Farmers work fields irrigated by canals, producing surplus grain that sustains urban populations. Artisans craft tools, vessels, and decorative objects, their labor both practical and artistic. Scribes and priests maintain records, guiding commerce, ritual, and governance. Each role, though modest in isolation, contributes to the broader functioning of society, reinforcing the idea that civilization is a collective endeavor, dependent upon cooperation, skill, and responsibility. Despite the growing complexity of cities, life retains its intimate connection to nature and the divine. Festivals mark the cycles of planting, harvest, and celestial movements, blending joy, reverence, and communal participation. Music, dance, and ritual offer moments of reflection and celebration, reinforcing social bonds and spiritual awareness. Children learn not only practical skills but also the myths, stories, and moral lessons that shape cultural identity. Through observation, participation, and tradition, knowledge passes seamlessly from one generation to the next. Kings themselves participate in these rhythms, performing rituals, offering prayers, and seeking guidance from priests. They understand that authority is not absolute but dependent upon balance, the favor of the gods, the well-being of the people, and the harmony of the land. A wise ruler observes the rivers, tends to fields, negotiates trade, and maintains justice, embodying the principles that sustain life. In this way, leadership becomes both a privilege and a responsibility, a role defined by service as much as power. Evening in the city brings a quiet serenity. The streets, once filled with the hum of activity, slow as families return home. Fires glow in homes and courtyards, casting flickering light on walls and figures. The scent of cooked grain, baked bread, and incense mingles in the air. Children rest, lulled by stories of gods, kings, and heroes. Elders recount the wisdom of the past, reminding listeners of their place in the cycle of life and the enduring presence of divine forces. The city, though a human creation, resonates with the rhythms of the natural world, reflecting a delicate balance between ambition and humility. The rivers continue their quiet journey, carrying with them memories of floods, seasons, and generations of human effort. They remind all who dwell near them that life is both fragile and resilient, shaped by forces beyond immediate control. Yet within this vastness, human agency emerges through planning, cooperation, creativity, and devotion. The rise of kings and cities is not a conquest of nature, but a harmonization with it, a careful orchestration of labor, intellect, and spirit. Architecture, art, and writing flourish alongside governance. Temples and ziggurats rise to the sky, adorned with carvings and reliefs depicting gods, myths, and kings. Pottery and sculptures tell stories of everyday life, divine intervention, and heroic deeds. Clay tablets record commerce, ritual, law, and literature, preserving knowledge for generations to come. These achievements reflect the interweaving of practical needs, cultural identity, and spiritual aspiration, creating a civilization that honors both the material and the symbolic aspects of life and the quiet hours of night. The city rests, and the people dream. They dream of harvests, ceremonies, and the favor of the gods. They dream of safe waters, abundant fields, and prosperous families. They dream of kings who lead wisely, of scribes who record accurately, and of artisans whose creations endure. And above all, they dream of continuity, the assurance that the civilization they are building will endure, grow, and carry their stories across the currents of time. The rise of kings and cities is more than the accumulation of power or wealth. It is the emergence of structure, memory, and shared purpose. It is the realization that human beings, in cooperation with each other and in respect for the natural and divine order, can create communities that endure. Every street, wall, and temple speaks of labor, vision, and devotion, a testament to the quiet persistence of humanity striving to bring order to the world. Sleep now, under the stars that have watched the rise of kings and the growth of cities. Listen to the rivers flowing softly through the plains, carrying the echoes of human endeavor and divine presence. Imagine the priests and scribes, the artisans and farmers, all contributing to a delicate harmony that sustains life. In their legacy, feel the enduring pulse of civilization, a rhythm that continues to flow, steady and gentle, guiding us through the night and into the quiet wonder of history. This is the heart of early Mesopotamia, where kings and cities rose in tandem with rivers, stars, and human aspiration. Sleep in its memory, and let the land, the waters, and the ancient stories carry you gently into the quiet night. The rivers continue to flow, their waters gentle, patient, and eternal, mirroring the quiet persistence of human ingenuity along their banks. In Mesopotamia, life unfolds with a rhythm dictated by the movement of water, the cycle of seasons, and the rise and fall of the sun. In this fertile land, the people have learned to observe, to measure, and to imagine, and from these simple acts, the seeds of invention begin to sprout. Every tool, structure, and method is a reflection of curiosity, necessity, and the desire to shape the world, not in rebellion against it, but in harmony with its rhythms. the first major inventions emerge from the daily needs of survival. Agriculture, guided by careful observation of the rivers, is the foundation. Farmers notice the patterns of flooding, the richness of the soil, and the timing of rains. They create canals and dikes to direct water to their fields, controlling the flow without attempting to dominate it. Simple plows pulled by oxen are introduced, easing the labor of planting and harvesting, while tools made from stone, wood, and later bronze allow more precise work in the soil. Each innovation is an answer to a question. How can we survive? How can we nurture life? How can we build stability in an unpredictable world? The domestication of animals is another quiet revolution. Sheep, goats, and cattle provide milk, meat, and labor, while donkeys and oxen carry loads and pull plows. These animals are not merely resources. They are partners in the work of survival, integral to the daily rhythm of life. People learn their behaviors, care for their needs, and observe their cycles, discovering early principles of breeding, care, and cooperation. Through this interaction, the Sumerians cultivate patience, empathy, and attentiveness, qualities that become as essential as the tools they create. The invention of writing represents a profound transformation, not only in practicality but in consciousness. Initially used to record trade, grain storage, and labor, cuneiform evolves into a medium for recording laws, stories, myths, and astronomy. The act of pressing wedge-shaped marks into soft clay tablets is more than a technique. It is an assertion of permanence, a way to extend memory beyond the life of an individual. Knowledge becomes tangible, portable, and durable. By preserving thoughts, observations, and rituals, the Sumerians establish a bridge across time, ensuring that wisdom, creativity, and experience are not lost but passed forward. Pottery is another area of innovation. Skilled artisans shape clay into vessels for storage, cooking, and ceremonial use. Over time, they develop techniques to fire clay more efficiently, creating stronger, more durable pots. Decorative motifs appear, geometric patterns, depictions of animals, gods, and symbols of life. These creations are simultaneously functional and aesthetic, merging utility with expression. Each piece tells a story, preserving culture in a form that endures beyond the fleeting span of a single life. Metallurgy emerges as a quiet revolution, shaping not only tools but society itself. Copper and later bronze are crafted into weapons, tools, and ornaments, allowing more precise farming, construction, and defense. Metalwork is both a practical skill and an art, reflecting the ingenuity and creativity of the people. From smelting to casting, each process requires observation, patience, and an understanding of natural materials. These techniques spread through trade and observation, connecting cities, villages, and distant communities in networks of knowledge and practice. The wheel, simple yet profound, transforms daily life. Transport and trade become more efficient, allowing people to move goods, grain, and water with less effort. Carts and wagons appear, facilitating communication and commerce across longer distances. The wheel is also applied to pottery, enabling finer, faster creation of vessels and symbolizing a broader principle: that human ingenuity can shape materials and processes to extend capability and imagination. Mathematics develops in tandem with these innovations. Counting, measuring, and calculating become essential to agriculture, trade, and construction. Sumerians use a base 60 system, allowing them to measure time, angles, and quantities with remarkable precision. Geometry guides the layout of fields, canals, and buildings. Numbers become a tool for understanding the world, linking abstract thought with tangible application. In these quiet moments of observation and calculation, the foundations of science emerge. Astronomy is another reflection of curiosity and ingenuity. The movement of the sun, moon, stars, and planets is carefully observed, recorded, and interpreted. Festivals, planting, and harvesting are guided by celestial patterns, and priests use their observations to predict events and advise rulers. The night sky becomes a map, a clock, and a guide, offering both practical and poetic knowledge. By linking the heavens with earthly life, the Sumerians cultivate an awareness of harmony, order, and the interconnection of all things. Architecture and engineering flourish alongside these practical innovations. Cities are laid out with attention to both utility and symbolism. Temples rise on high platforms, walls provide protection, and streets and canals create efficient circulation of people and resources. Builders experiment with arches, columns, and vaulted spaces, discovering principles that allow for stability and grandeur. Each structure embodies knowledge, labor, and imagination, reflecting the integration of science, art, and spirituality in daily life. These innovations are woven seamlessly into routine. Farmers plant with precision, guided by observation and calculation. Artisans shape clay, metal, and stone with skill and creativity. Scribes record transactions, stories, and astronomical observations. Priests perform rituals that connect the practical with the spiritual. Music and dance, integrated into festivals and celebrations, enrich life and reinforce social bonds. Innovation is not separate from life. It is life itself, expressed in every tool, building, and ritual. Trade and communication expand with these inventions. Surplus grain, crafted goods, and metals are exchanged between cities, fostering not only economic growth but also cultural exchange. Ideas travel along these networks. Techniques for irrigation, metallurgy, writing, and art spread from one community to another. The flow of knowledge mirrors the flow of rivers, connecting people, cities, and civilizations in a web of shared understanding and shared aspiration. Even leisure and contemplation reflect the Sumerians' inventive spirit. Music, storytelling, and ritual offer spaces for reflection, creativity, and shared experience. Children learn by observing and participating, gradually absorbing the knowledge, techniques, and cultural values of their elders. In these quiet acts, human ingenuity passes forward, not merely as technical skill, but as a way of seeing and interacting with the world, attentive, thoughtful, and imaginative. The spiritual dimension of invention is equally profound. Tools, buildings, and written words are not solely practical. They are imbued with meaning. A well-constructed canal honors the river, a finely shaped tablet preserves memory, and a temple connects mortals to the divine. In all acts of creation, the Sumerians perceive a unity between the material, intellectual, and spiritual realms, cultivating a civilization that honors both necessity and beauty, practicality and imagination. Night falls gently over the cities. Fires glow softly, illuminating the streets, homes, and temples. Families rest, lulled by stories, music, and the gentle hum of the rivers. Children dream of stars, rivers, and the inventive hands of their ancestors. Artisans imagine new forms, scribes trace patterns in clay, and priests whisper prayers of gratitude and guidance. In these quiet moments, the innovations of Mesopotamia, from the wheel to writing, from canals to temples, resonate not only as achievements but as expressions of the human spirit. Curious, inventive, and deeply connected to the world. The rivers themselves seem to acknowledge these developments, carrying water through the canals, nourishing fields, and reflecting starlight that has guided observation for generations. Life, technology, and culture flow together in a delicate harmony. The people of Mesopotamia have learned to listen, to observe, and to act in concert with their environment. Each innovation is a dialogue with the world, a a conversation between human aspiration and natural rhythm. Through inventions and innovations, the Sumerians shape a civilization that endures. They learn that knowledge is cumulative, that each discovery builds upon another, and that imagination, careful observation, and collaboration can transform daily life. The quiet power of these inventions extends beyond utility. They cultivate understanding, creativity, and connection. They remind us that every tool, every technique, and every structure is a reflection of both human need and human wonder. Sleep now, beneath the stars that have watched these innovations unfold. Hear the rivers flowing gently past the fields, the soft murmur of workers tending their crafts, and the whispers of priests recording celestial movements. Feel the presence of the first inventors, artisans, and thinkers, whose quiet genius shaped the foundations of civilization. Their legacy is the enduring rhythm of life, thought, and creation, a gentle current that carries through the ages. This is Mesopotamia, alive with ingenuity, observation, and imagination. Sleep in its memory, let the rivers and stars guide you, and drift gently in the quiet wonder of human innovation, where every thought, action, and creation connects the earth to the heavens, the past to the future, and the individual to the vast tapestry of life. The rivers of Mesopotamia flow steadily, their waters reflecting the stars above and carrying with them the rhythms of countless generations. Along their banks, life thrives in harmony with the land, guided by observation, labor, and ingenuity. As the cities grow, so too does the understanding that no single settlement can thrive in isolation. Resources, skills, and ideas must flow between communities, and through this understanding, trade emerges as both a necessity and a subtle art. The quiet movement of goods and knowledge along the Tigris and Euphrates weaves the first intricate economic networks in human history. Trade begins simply. Farmers exchange surplus grain for tools or pottery from neighboring villages. Artisans offer finely crafted goods in return for raw materials or precious metals. Even small settlements develop rudimentary marketplaces where barter and exchange occur. Over time, these informal systems grow more structured. Specialized merchants appear, carrying goods over greater distances, connecting distant communities, and creating networks that link cities into a broader system of exchange. Each journey along a dusty path or winding river channel becomes a thread in a vast economic tapestry. Invisible yet vital to the life of the cities, waterways themselves become highways of commerce. The Tigris and Euphrates carry boats laden with grain, clay, metals, and textiles, gliding silently beneath the sun and stars. Sailors and traders navigate by memory, observing the currents, wind, and celestial patterns. Their journeys are slow, deliberate, and purposeful, requiring patience and skill. They transport not only material goods but also stories, ideas, and innovations, creating cultural as well as economic links between cities. Each cargo holds both tangible value and intangible connections, shaping the identity of the Sumerian civilization. Markets emerge at city centers, lively and rhythmic. Here, people gather to exchange goods, negotiate prices, and share news. The air is rich with the scent of baked bread, fresh grain, herbs, and pottery. Craftsmen display vessels, textiles, and tools, while farmers present their harvests. Scribes record transactions on clay tablets, preserving details of trade, ownership, and agreements. The marketplace is more than a center of commerce. It is a hub of communication, social interaction, and cultural exchange. Through these spaces, citizens learn the value of negotiation, fairness, and collaboration. Currency in Mesopotamia begins in simple forms. Initially, trade relies on the barter system, exchanging grain, livestock, and crafted goods. Over time, Standardized weights and measures are introduced to ensure fairness, creating a shared framework of value that spans cities and regions. Clay tokens, shaped to represent commodities, serve as early money, simplifying transactions and enabling larger, more complex exchanges. This system, though primitive by modern standards, reflects careful observation, practical reasoning, and a desire to maintain trust and reliability in human interactions. The economy is intricately linked with agriculture, which remains the backbone of life. Fields, fed by canals and irrigation, produce abundant grain, barley, and vegetables. Farmers, guided by observation of the land and the heavens, ensure steady production to sustain urban populations. Surplus crops are stored in granaries, managed by priests and scribes, and distributed according to need, ritual obligations, and trade agreements. The careful organization of food resources reflects not only economic necessity but also social stability and religious observance. Specialization arises naturally from these interconnections. Certain communities focus on metalwork, producing tools and ornaments. Others excel in pottery, weaving, or construction. This division of labor increases efficiency, encourages skill refinement, and fosters interdependence. Cities become centers of expertise, and craftsmen gain recognition for their abilities. Knowledge is shared through apprenticeships, trade, and observation, ensuring that skills evolve and spread, further strengthening economic networks. Trade routes extend beyond the immediate rivers, reaching distant regions across deserts and mountains. Merchants transport lapis lazuli, tin, copper, and precious stones, establishing long-distance commerce that links Mesopotamia to far-off lands. These journeys, though perilous, bring not only wealth but also ideas, techniques, and cultural influences. The people learn that exchange is not solely about goods. It is also about knowledge, understanding, and adaptation. Each interaction, each negotiation, and each delivery shapes the evolution of cities and the civilization itself. The role of scribes becomes increasingly central in this context. They maintain detailed records of trade, contracts, and taxes, ensuring transparency and continuity. Clay tablets preserve these records, creating a system of accountability that spans generations. Scribes track the flow of goods, the obligations of merchants, and the agreements between cities. Their work is both administrative and intellectual, bridging the practical demands of commerce with the larger systems of governance and culture. Through their meticulous efforts, the economy is stabilized and trust is maintained across communities. Temples also play a crucial role in economic life. Beyond their spiritual functions, temples serve as centers of storage, trade, and distribution. Grain, textiles, and craft goods are managed by temple administrators, ensuring that resources support both ritual obligations and the broader community. Temples provide loans, facilitate exchange, and regulate markets, blending economic, religious, and social functions. This integration demonstrates the holistic understanding the Sumerians had of society, where every aspect of life, spiritual, economic, and civic, is interconnected. The rise of standardized measurements and record-keeping allows for more complex economic planning. Quantities of grain, livestock, and other commodities are carefully calculated, stored, and distributed. Taxes are assessed, labor organized, and trade agreements formalized. This system not only supports the cities themselves but also allows for long-term projects, such as canal construction, temple building, and public works. The careful management of resources ensures both survival and growth, reflecting foresight, discipline, and cooperation. Even leisure and cultural practices are influenced by economic activity. Festivals, rituals, and communal events often coincide with periods of harvest or trade. Music, dance, and storytelling bring communities together, reinforcing social bonds and celebrating both divine favor and human achievement. Markets, while practical, also serve as spaces for social interaction, exchange of ideas, and the subtle weaving of community identity. The economy, culture, and spirituality are inseparable threads in the fabric of Sumerian life. As cities expand, so too does the understanding of interdependence. Leaders recognize that no city can thrive in isolation. Diplomacy, alliances, and trade agreements become essential, fostering networks of mutual benefit. Conflict is mitigated through negotiation and shared economic interests. The flow of goods parallels the flow of rivers, reminding citizens and rulers alike that stability depends on careful management, respect for others, and cooperation with natural and human forces alike. The people of Mesopotamia also innovate in transportation and logistics to support trade. Carts, boats, and pack animals enable movement of bulk goods, while roads and river channels are maintained for efficiency. Warehouses, docks, and marketplaces are strategically positioned, reflecting thoughtful planning. Merchants and laborers work in coordinated rhythms, their efforts harmonized with the cycles of river and season. Through these practical achievements, the civilization demonstrates that ingenuity, organization, and foresight are as vital to survival as courage or strength. Night falls over the cities, and the rivers reflect the glow of lamps, fires, and stars. Markets empty, artisans rest, and merchants dream of distant lands. Families gather in quiet homes, discussing the day's work and the goods that will travel tomorrow. Scribes continue to etch records into clay, ensuring that commerce and memory persist across generations. The quiet hum of activity fades, leaving a sense of order, continuity, and balance that permeates the civilization. In these quiet moments, the full significance of trade and economy becomes clear. It is not only about material wealth or survival. It is about connection, trust, and shared purpose. Through exchange, people learn patience, negotiation, and respect for the needs of others. Communities are linked not only by rivers and roads, but also by agreements, contracts, and mutual dependence. Knowledge, culture, and technology flow along with goods, creating an invisible web of civilization that unites cities, regions, and generations. Sleep now, carried on the gentle murmur of the rivers and the soft glow of city fires. Imagine merchants loading boats with grain and pottery, scribes recording transactions with careful precision, and families resting after a day of labor. Feel the rhythm of trade, the quiet pulse of economic life, and the enduring connections that weave the cities of Mesopotamia into a coherent, vibrant civilization. Through these exchanges, the first humans learn that cooperation, foresight, and ingenuity shape not only wealth but also the character of society. This is Mesopotamia, alive with commerce, observation, and interconnection. Sleep in its memory, let the rivers carry your dreams, and drift gently in the quiet wonder of a world in which trade and economy bind cities, people, and generations into the delicate harmony of civilization. The sun sets gently over the plains of Mesopotamia, casting long shadows across the cities that line the Tigris and Euphrates. Light fades slowly, and as darkness descends, the people turn their attention upward and inward, to the forces they cannot see but deeply feel. The heartbeat of civilization is not found solely in walls, markets, or canals, but in the rituals and beliefs that weave life, community, and the cosmos into a single, enduring rhythm. Religion is the thread that binds the cities together, guiding action, providing comfort, and shaping thought in every aspect of daily life. In the quiet of dawn, priests and priestesses prepare the temples for the day. Fires are kindled, incense burned, and offerings readied. Temples rise above the cities, their ziggurats reaching toward the sky, stepping upward like a bridge to the divine. Inside, Statues of gods gaze upon worshippers with serene permanence, their features carefully carved to embody power, wisdom, and compassion. Each temple is a microcosm of the universe, a sacred space where heaven and earth converge, and where humans may glimpse, however fleetingly, the will of the gods. The people of Mesopotamia believe that the gods are present in all things. Rivers, winds, stars, and storms are expressions of divine forces. They see the hand of the gods in the rise and fall of the sun, the fertility of the land, and the health of their families. In response, rituals are performed with devotion and precision. Daily offerings of grain, water, and crafted goods are made, not as mere habit, but as conscious acts of acknowledgement and respect. Each gesture, each word, carries meaning, reinforcing the connection between human action and cosmic order. Festivals are central to religious life. They mark the cycles of nature, the movement of stars, and the milestones of human existence. Planting and harvest are celebrated with song and dance, while celestial events inspire awe and reflection. Music fills the streets and courtyards, drums and flutes guiding bodies in coordinated motion. People come together in communal celebration, renewing social bonds and reaffirming shared values. Festivals are both joyous and meditative, blending exuberance with contemplation, grounding individuals in the larger rhythms of life and the universe. Priests play a crucial role in interpreting divine will. They observe the sky, track the stars, and note the movements of planets. They read omens, consult oracles, and advise kings on decisions of governance, trade, and warfare. Through careful study, they learn to predict floods, harvest yields, and other critical events. Their knowledge bridges the seen and unseen, the practical and the spiritual. In their guidance, the community finds both reassurance and structure, a sense that the chaos of the world can be understood and harmonized through careful attention and ritual practice. Daily life is infused with small acts of devotion. Families maintain household shrines, offering food, water, or small crafted objects to their protective deities. Children learn the stories and hymns of the gods, absorbing lessons of courage, justice, and respect. The sick or troubled seek guidance through prayer, ritual purification, or consultation with priests. Even work in the fields or workshops is framed by awareness of divine presence, an acknowledgement that labor is a shared endeavor between human effort and cosmic favor. Sacred myths provide the framework for understanding existence. Creation stories describe the mingling of fresh water and salt water, the formation of humans, and the establishment of order from chaos. Tales of gods and heroes illustrate moral principles, the consequences of action, and the balance between power and responsibility. The myths are not static. They are performed, recited, and reinterpreted, ensuring that each generation finds meaning relevant to its experience. These stories are the threads of memory and identity, linking past, present, and future into a coherent cultural fabric. Temples serve as centers not only for worship but also for economic and social organization. Grain is stored and distributed, craft goods produced and offered, and labor organized for public projects. Religious and civic life intertwine seamlessly, reflecting the Sumerians' understanding that the sacred and the practical are not separate domains. By aligning human activity with divine principles, society gains stability, order, and purpose. Rituals reinforce social cohesion, while offerings and festivals maintain the favor of the gods who govern prosperity and protection. The architecture of temples is designed to reflect cosmological understanding. Ziggurats ascend in steps, symbolizing the connection between earth and heaven. Reliefs depict gods, sacred animals, and mythic narratives, teaching moral and spiritual lessons. Courtyards, altars, and ceremonial spaces facilitate collective participation. The physical structure mirrors spiritual principles, reminding all who enter that human life is part of a larger order and that devotion manifests in both action and form. Priestesses, especially in the cults of goddesses such as Inanna, hold significant roles in ritual and spiritual leadership. They perform sacred dances, recite hymns, and oversee festivals that honor the divine feminine. Their presence affirms the balance between male and female forces in the cosmos and within society. Women in households and communities also participate in daily acts of devotion, contributing to the transmission of cultural knowledge and spiritual practice. Through these roles, religious life becomes a shared, participatory experience, integrating gender, labor, and belief. Astronomy and ritual intersect in meaningful ways. The observation of the moon, planets, and stars informs the timing of festivals, planting, and ceremonies. Celestial phenomena are interpreted as messages from the gods, guiding decisions of both rulers and commoners. The heavens are both a practical guide and a source of awe, inspiring songs, stories, and art. By connecting the earthly and the celestial, the Sumerians cultivate an awareness of continuity, order, and their place in the universe. Ritual practice also provides psychological and social stability. In a world shaped by floods, droughts, and unpredictable events, the regularity of offerings, prayers, and festivals reassures communities. These acts reinforce the perception of control within the larger cosmic framework, providing comfort and cohesion. By participating in structured ritual, individuals find rhythm, purpose, and reassurance, attuning themselves to forces larger than themselves while strengthening bonds with their neighbors. Music, dance, and storytelling are inseparable from ritual. Instruments accompany hymns, narrating the deeds of gods and heroes. Choreographed movements echo celestial patterns, linking the body to the cosmos. Storytelling teaches moral lessons, records history, and maintains cultural memory. Through these practices, Sumerians experience a holistic form of education and devotion, where intellect, emotion, and physical presence converge in service to the sacred. Even ordinary labor is framed as a sacred act. Farmers tending fields, artisans shaping clay, and scribes inscribing tablets all acknowledge the divine presence in their work. Offering a portion of one's harvest or craft to the temple is both practical and symbolic, sustaining the gods while reinforcing the moral and spiritual framework of society. Work becomes prayer in motion, connecting daily life with eternal principles and instilling mindfulness, gratitude, and continuity. Death and remembrance are also ritualized, providing continuity and structure. Burial practices, offerings for the deceased, and funerary rites honor ancestors and maintain cosmic balance. Families gather to commemorate those who have passed, reinforcing social cohesion and ensuring that memory persists. Ancestors are not forgotten. Their guidance, example, and protection remain integral to the lives of the living. These rituals link generations, emphasizing the interdependence of past, present, and future. Through religion and ritual, the Sumerians cultivate a civilization that is deeply attuned to both human and cosmic rhythms. Temples, festivals, daily offerings, and sacred myths all reinforce a sense of connection, responsibility, and understanding. Life is structured, purposeful, and meaningful, with every action, observation, and creation reflecting awareness of the divine. Social, economic, and spiritual dimensions are integrated, producing a culture that honors order, reverence, and continuity. As night falls over the cities, fires glow in homes, temples, and workshops. The rivers reflect the stars, carrying the quiet murmur of civilization forward. Families rest, children dream of gods and heroes, and priests continue to observe, record, and interpret the heavens. Music, chants, and the gentle rhythm of daily life echoes softly through the streets, blending human presence with cosmic awareness. The heartbeat of civilization continues, steady, patient, and enduring. Sleep now, carried on the gentle rhythm of offerings, prayers, and cosmic observation. Imagine the priests and priestesses, the farmers and artisans, the kings and scribes, all participating in a living network of devotion and understanding. Feel the continuity of life, the connection between generations, and the quiet pulse of civilization that resonates in every act of worship and every ritual gesture. Through religion, the Sumerians shape not only their understanding of the cosmos but the very fabric of their communal existence. This is Mesopotamia, alive with reverence, ritual, and order. Sleep in its memory, let the rivers and stars guide you, and drift gently into the quiet wonder of a world where human life, the divine, and the rhythms of the cosmos converge in enduring harmony. The rivers flow steadily through Mesopotamia, reflecting sunlight by day and the soft glow of stars by night, whispering the quiet continuity of life. Along their banks, cities grow and hum with human endeavor, but within these walls and streets lies another layer of civilization, one shaped not by grain or commerce, but by imagination, creativity, and expression. Art and culture are the soul of Mesopotamia, a mirror in which the people see themselves, their gods, their hopes, and their fears. In their creation, they translate life, spirit, and thought into tangible forms, leaving traces that reach across time, whispering to us in the present. The earliest expressions of art are humble yet profound. Clay figurines, carved from soft earth, depict humans, animals, and divine beings. These figures serve multiple purposes: devotional objects, educational tools, and symbols of protection. Each mark made by the artisan's hand carries intention and care, embodying both practical knowledge and spiritual understanding. The creation process itself is meditative, a dialogue between the artist, the material, and the world around them. Through repetition, observation, and refinement, these simple objects evolve into increasingly intricate and meaningful forms. Pottery flourishes as both utility and artistry. Farmers, merchants, and households rely on clay vessels for storage, cooking, and transport, but artisans transform these everyday items into canvases of creativity. Patterns of lines, geometric shapes, and stylized animals decorate bowls, jars, and plates. Over time, these motifs acquire symbolic meaning, reflecting mythology, societal roles, and cosmological understanding. A single vessel carries the dual significance of practical necessity and cultural expression, linking human life with thought, imagination, and tradition. Sculpture develops alongside pottery and figurines, reaching new heights in scale and detail. Stone and metal are shaped into statues of gods, kings, and mythical creatures. Ziggurats are adorned with carved reliefs that narrate myths, heroic deeds, and ceremonial life. Each sculpture communicates stories across generations, ensuring that knowledge, identity, and morality are preserved. The artistry of Mesopotamia is not mere decoration. It is a language, a visual narration of civilization's values, beliefs, and experiences. Writing itself becomes an art form, transcending practicality. Cuneiform, pressed into clay tablets, records commerce, astronomy, law, and literature, but also poetry, hymns, and epics. The shape and rhythm of symbols carry aesthetic as well as intellectual meaning. Scribes, trained for years, cultivate skill in both precision and beauty, transforming written records into enduring artistic expressions. Through this, culture extends beyond oral tradition, creating a tangible, lasting medium that preserves the richness of Mesopotamian life for centuries to come. Music is inseparable from both art and ritual. Lyres, Flutes, drums, and other instruments resonate through temples, courtyards, and homes. Music accompanies ceremonies, festivals, and daily routines, shaping emotion and reinforcing communal bonds. Songs recount myths, honor the gods, and celebrate seasonal cycles. The interplay of melody, rhythm, and narrative transforms sound into both cultural record and spiritual expression, connecting the senses with memory, identity, and the divine. Dance complements music, translating rhythm into movement. In festival squares, temple courtyards, and royal courts, bodies trace patterns that mirror celestial cycles, reenact myths, or embody symbolic ideas. Dance conveys emotion, moral lessons, and spiritual devotion. Each step, gesture, and turn is imbued with significance, creating a dynamic bridge between physical experience and cultural understanding. Through these movements, individuals participate directly in the cultural expression of their society, contributing to a living, shared heritage. Storytelling and literature flourish, carrying history, ethics, and imagination across generations. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest known works of literature, captures the interplay of human ambition, mortality, friendship, and divine intervention. Myths and fables encode moral lessons and cultural norms, providing guidance while inspiring wonder. Oral tradition and written texts coexist, ensuring that culture is both accessible and enduring. Storytellers act as custodians of memory, connecting the present with the past and reinforcing the social and spiritual fabric of the cities. Architecture itself is an art form. Ziggurats, palaces, and temples are carefully designed to convey both utility and aesthetic meaning. The arrangement of spaces, the use of reliefs and motifs, and the monumental scale all communicate messages of power, devotion, and harmony. Urban planning reflects not only practical needs but also symbolic order, integrating human habitation with spiritual and aesthetic principles. Buildings become more than shelters. They are embodiments of identity, belief, and aspiration. Visual storytelling extends to murals, mosaics, and decorative inlays. Scenes of agriculture, trade, warfare, and ritual are depicted on walls, providing narrative continuity and communal memory. Each image communicates social values, cultural ideals, and historical events. Art becomes a language that transcends spoken word, accessible to all who observe and interpret it. The careful blending of narrative, form, and function ensures that culture is not only preserved but experienced by successive generations. The arts of Mesopotamia are deeply intertwined with education. Young apprentices learn by observing and imitating masters, gradually acquiring skill, technique, and understanding. Training is not purely technical. It includes moral, spiritual, and intellectual dimensions. Through practice, observation, and repetition, artisans internalize cultural values while contributing to the continuity and evolution of artistic expression. This educational process ensures that culture is both transmitted and transformed, maintaining relevance across time and place. Cultural exchange occurs naturally through trade, travel, and diplomacy. Merchants, travelers, and envoys carry not only goods but also ideas, styles, and techniques between cities and regions. Artistic motifs, musical styles, and literary themes are shared, adapted, and integrated, fostering diversity and innovation. Mesopotamian culture is therefore dynamic, continually enriched by interaction while maintaining a coherent identity rooted in shared history, belief, and aesthetic sensibility. Craftsmanship reflects a balance between function and beauty. Everyday objects, from tools to vessels, are crafted with attention to both practicality and form. Decorative elements enhance utility without compromising purpose, demonstrating an understanding of harmony, proportion, and visual pleasure. This principle extends to architecture, clothing, jewelry, and ceremonial objects, creating a consistent cultural aesthetic that permeates every aspect of life. In this, the Sumerians show that art and life are inseparable, each enhancing the other. Religious and civic ceremonies provide opportunities for communal artistic expression. Music, dance, sculpture, and ritual performance converge, transforming ordinary spaces into immersive experiences. Citizens participate collectively, observing, creating, and internalizing cultural forms. These shared moments reinforce social cohesion, spiritual understanding, and aesthetic appreciation. Art becomes not merely an object but a lived experience, shaping perception, memory, and identity. Even in the quiet of home, culture is present. Families tell stories, teach songs, carve small figures, and decorate domestic spaces. Children absorb knowledge, aesthetics, and morality through observation and practice. Everyday life becomes a canvas for cultural expression, ensuring that art is not confined to elite spaces but integrated into the rhythms of daily existence. Through this, culture permeates society at every level, enriching life and linking generations. The enduring influence of Mesopotamian art and culture is evident in the preservation of objects, inscriptions, and architecture across millennia. Pottery shards, clay tablets, statues, and architectural remains provide insight into the lives, values, and imagination of the people. These artifacts are not merely relics. They are voices from the past, inviting reflection, understanding, and connection. The careful attention to form, meaning, and function ensures that culture survives beyond the lifespan of individuals, cities, and even empires. Sleep now, beneath the gentle glow of stars mirrored in the rivers. Picture artisans shaping clay, musicians filling the air with sound, dancers moving rhythmically in temple courtyards, and storytellers weaving myths that stretch across time. Feel the continuity of human creativity, the shared experience of expression, and the quiet presence of culture in every corner of Mesopotamia. Through art, music, dance, and literature, civilization becomes both tangible and spiritual, bridging generations and connecting human life to the eternal rhythms of the world. This is Mesopotamia, alive with imagination, expression, and cultural memory. Sleep in its essence, let the rivers and stars carry your dreams, and drift gently in the quiet wonder of a civilization whose soul is woven through every crafted object, musical note, and story, creating a harmonious reflection of humanity itself. The rivers of Mesopotamia flow steadily, unchanging in their course yet shaping everything in their path. Along their fertile banks, cities rise and flourish, and in their shadows, human ambition awakens. Life in the early cities is not only about agriculture, commerce, religion, and art, but also about power, its acquisition, maintenance, and contestation. As settlements grow and wealth accumulates, competition emerges, subtle at first, then more pronounced, giving rise to the twin forces of conflict and conquest. Through struggle and negotiation, civilization defines itself, learning lessons that will echo through generations. Conflict begins quietly. Disputes over land, water, and resources arise between families, villages, and ultimately cities. Irrigation canals require careful maintenance, and when floods threaten crops or distribution, tensions mount. Traders may quarrel over prices or delivery, while political leaders negotiate control over boundaries and taxation. These early conflicts are often localized, mediated through councils, elders, or priests. Yet even these small disputes lay the groundwork for understanding the nature of authority, negotiation, and the organization of defense. As cities expand, the scale of conflict grows. Fortifications emerge along city walls, signaling the recognition that protection is necessary. Laborers construct massive walls, gates, and defensive towers, blending practical engineering with symbolic assertion of power. The fortifications themselves communicate both strength and deterrence, a physical and psychological message to neighbors and potential invaders. Within the walls, society organizes around defense as well as sustenance, blending military preparedness with daily life. Leadership evolves in response to these pressures. Kings, initially stewards of land and mediators between gods and humans, increasingly take on roles as military strategists and defenders of the city. Armies are organized, trained, and equipped, reflecting both the practical necessities of defense and the symbolic importance of authority. Soldiers become integrated into society, their duties extending beyond warfare to include labor, construction, and ceremonial participation. Through these institutions, cities learn to balance governance, economy, and protection, recognizing that stability requires vigilance as well as wisdom. Warfare itself begins as intermittent raids and skirmishes. Neighboring cities compete for fertile land, trade routes, and water rights, and battles are often fought near canals, rivers, and city boundaries. Strategy, organization, and leadership become crucial, while diplomacy attempts to mediate disputes when possible. Victories bring not only control of resources but also prestige and influence. Conquest is not solely a pursuit of wealth. It is an assertion of status, a demonstration of capability, and a way to secure the future of the community. The social consequences of conflict are profound. Citizens are called upon to participate in defense, contributing labor, skills, and resources. Families experience the tension and uncertainty of potential attack, while rulers are held accountable for protection and strategy. War shapes identity, reinforcing solidarity within communities and delineating boundaries between them. Through these experiences, individuals and societies cultivate resilience, adaptability, and understanding of the delicate balance between aggression and negotiation. Conflict drives technological and organizational innovation. Weapons evolve from simple spears and clubs to composite bows, swords, and bronze implements. Defensive structures grow more complex, incorporating walls, gates, towers, and moats. Military organization becomes systematic with strategies for recruitment, training, and deployment. Leaders develop methods to maintain morale, ensure supply lines, and coordinate communication. These innovations, while born of necessity, have broader applications in construction, engineering, and administration, reflecting the intertwined nature of survival, creativity, and ingenuity. Conquest extends beyond immediate neighbors. Ambitious kings seek to expand territories, securing trade routes, fertile lands, and strategic locations. Diplomacy, alliances, and marriage are employed alongside military campaigns, blending strategy with negotiation. The integration of conquered peoples requires administrative skill, often incorporating local practices while asserting central authority. Through conquest, cultures interact, exchange ideas, and influence one another, fostering diversity even amid conflict. Religious authority is often intertwined with conquest. Kings claim divine sanction for their campaigns, portraying victory as evidence of favor from the gods. Temples and priests support these claims, reinforcing legitimacy and encouraging loyalty among citizens. War and ritual are thus interlinked, creating a moral and cosmological framework for understanding the upheavals of human ambition. In this way, religion, politics, and military power coalesce, structuring society and providing context for events that might otherwise seem chaotic or random. The ethical dimension of conflict is carefully observed. Laws, codes, and customs regulate behavior during warfare, addressing treatment of prisoners, property rights, and the obligations of victors. Justice, even amid conquest, is framed in terms of divine order, moral principle, and communal responsibility. Through these norms, societies maintain cohesion, avoid excessive disruption, and ensure that power is exercised with awareness of its consequences. The balance between might and morality becomes a guiding principle, shaping both governance and culture. Trade and economy are not exempt from the effects of conflict. Conquest opens new markets, access to resources, and opportunities for artisans and merchants. Simultaneously, warfare can disrupt supply chains, depopulate areas, and destroy infrastructure. Leaders must carefully manage both opportunity and risk, coordinating logistics, protecting trade routes, and rebuilding after destruction. In this way, conflict drives both innovation and resilience, encouraging planning, foresight, and adaptive governance. Conflict is also a source of cultural memory. Epic tales, songs, and inscriptions commemorate victories, heroes, and battles. These narratives encode lessons about strategy, morality, and leadership, providing guidance for future generations. Heroes emerge, exemplifying courage, skill, and virtue, while cautionary tales warn of hubris, betrayal, and the dangers of neglecting divine or societal obligations. Through storytelling, conflict becomes both a historical record and a moral compass, shaping identity and collective memory. The psychological impact of conquest is profound. Citizens live with the awareness of vulnerability, cultivating vigilance and adaptability. Leaders face the weight of responsibility, balancing ambition with duty, risk with prudence. Communities develop resilience, learning to recover from loss, rebuild infrastructure, and maintain cohesion. Conflict shapes character as much as it shapes territory, influencing the values, behaviors, and priorities of individuals and societies alike. Even amid turmoil, art, culture, and ritual persist. Temples continue to function, festivals are observed, and music and dance accompany both celebration and mourning. Artifacts depict battles, heroes, and mythic analogues of human struggle. Literature records not only victories but also reflections on mortality, divine favor, and the nature of power. In this way, civilization maintains continuity even in the face of upheaval, ensuring that identity, memory, and cultural achievement endure. Conquest and conflict also foster exchange. Subjugated cities contribute knowledge, techniques, and culture to the conqueror. Ideas about irrigation, metallurgy, writing, and art spread across regions, enriching civilization even amid disruption. Through interaction, sometimes violent, sometimes cooperative, societies learn from one another, adapt, and evolve. Power is exercised not only through domination but also through integration, synthesis, and adaptation. As night falls over the cities, fires glow softly within homes, temples, and fortifications. Rivers mirror starlight, carrying the quiet murmur of civilization forward. Soldiers rest, artisans continue their work, and families reflect on the day's events. The rhythm of life persists, shaped by both struggle and cooperation, conquest and reconciliation. Even in moments of tension, society maintains its structure, guided by law, ritual, and the enduring flow of culture and commerce. Sleep now, carried on the gentle murmur of rivers and the quiet echo of past battles. Imagine the construction of walls, the preparation of armies, the strategies of kings, and the courage of citizens defending their homes. Feel the balance between ambition and morality, the integration of conflict with culture, and the enduring pulse of human civilization. Through struggle and conquest, Mesopotamia learns lessons that shape governance, society, and identity, leaving legacies that resonate across generations. This is Mesopotamia, alive with tension, strategy, resilience, and adaptation. Sleep in its memory, let the rivers and stars guide your dreams, and drift gently in the quiet wonder of a civilization where power, ambition, and cooperation converge to shape the course of history, guiding both human and cosmic order. The rivers of Mesopotamia continue their eternal flow, winding through plains, cities, and ruins, carrying the whispers of countless generations. The sun rises over the fertile land and sets in quiet reflection, and the moon follows in serene procession, illuminating canals, temples, and fields that once thrived with human endeavor. Though empires rise and fall, and cities crumble into dust, the memory of Mesopotamia endures. Its legacy is not merely in bricks, tablets, or artifacts, but in the currents of knowledge, culture, and imagination that ripple across time, linking past, present, and future. Civilization in Mesopotamia is a story of beginnings. Here, humans first organize in cities, cultivate the land with ingenuity, and build networks of trade, culture, and ritual. Every innovation, whether a plow turning soil, a cuneiform tablet pressed with symbols, or a ziggurat rising toward the sky, is a testament to observation, creativity, and the human desire to shape the world. These achievements, born of necessity and nurtured by imagination, establish principles that reverberate far beyond their immediate context, forming the foundation for societies yet to come. The inventions of Mesopotamia continue to influence humanity. Writing, first pressed into clay, allows memory to extend beyond the lifespan of an individual, preserving stories, laws, and knowledge for generations. Mathematics, developed for trade, measurement, and astronomy, establishes systems that underpin architecture, engineering, and scientific observation. Irrigation, agriculture, and city planning demonstrate the integration of environmental awareness, labor, and ingenuity. These contributions are more than practical achievements. They are reflections of human curiosity, problem-solving, and adaptation. Trade and economic networks leave their mark as well. Canals and roads, marketplaces and warehouses facilitate the movement of goods, ideas, and culture. Long-distance exchange connects Mesopotamia to distant lands, transmitting not only commodities but also techniques, artistic styles, and spiritual beliefs. In this web of commerce, communities learn the value of cooperation, negotiation, and foresight. The flow of goods mirrors the flow of knowledge, spreading innovation and shaping civilizations far beyond the rivers of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylonia. Religion and ritual, central to daily life, leave a legacy that endures in both tangible and intangible forms. Temples, ziggurats, and ceremonial spaces testify to spiritual and architectural ingenuity, while myths, hymns, and epics preserve moral, ethical, and cosmological understanding. The stories of gods, heroes, and creation inform identity, inspire imagination, and guide behavior. Through ritual, humanity learns continuity, community, and reverence, principles that resonate across time and culture. These practices cultivate not only devotion but also social cohesion, reinforcing the idea that civilization is as much about moral and spiritual alignment as it is about practical survival. Art and culture provide a lasting imprint. Sculptures, reliefs, pottery, music, and literature reveal the inner life of the civilization. Its aesthetic sensibilities, its emotions, and its values. The Epic of Gilgamesh survives not just as a story, but as a philosophical meditation on mortality, friendship, and the human condition. Music and dance reflect societal rhythms, integrating individual experience with collective celebration. Visual art communicates memory, history, and imagination, ensuring that even as cities crumble, the essence of Mesopotamian identity endures. These cultural expressions remind us that civilization is alive in both tangible objects and the intangible rhythms of human creativity. Conflict and conquest leave their own legacy, teaching lessons about governance, ethics, and resilience. The rise and fall of kings, the victories and defeats of armies, and the negotiation of alliances reveal the complexities of power and human ambition. Societies learn to balance authority with justice, ambition with morality, and aggression with diplomacy. Through these lessons, Mesopotamia shapes principles that inform later civilizations, emphasizing that the exercise of power is inseparable from responsibility, ethics, and social cohesion. Education and the transmission of knowledge are central to legacy. Scribes, artisans, and teachers ensure that skills, techniques, and cultural wisdom are passed from one generation to the next. Apprenticeships, observation, and repetition cultivate mastery, moral understanding, and creative expression. Knowledge becomes cumulative, building layer upon layer across time. The meticulous records of Mesopotamian society demonstrate that civilization thrives when memory, education, and continuity are carefully preserved. In this sense, the legacy of Mesopotamia is not static. It is living, flowing, and adaptive, continuing to influence thought and practice long after individual lives have ended. Even the natural environment bears the mark of Mesopotamian ingenuity. Canals, levees, and irrigation systems reshape the land, demonstrating human understanding of hydrology, agriculture, and engineering. These innovations reflect observation, experimentation, and collaboration, revealing an early mastery of systems thinking. While time may reclaim much of the landscape, the principles underlying these innovations persist in the knowledge passed down to successive generations, shaping agriculture, urban planning, and environmental management for millennia. Memory persists not only in material artifacts but also in intangible influence. Literature, myths, and philosophical reflection inspire new ideas, shaping the moral and intellectual frameworks of future societies. Astronomical observation lays the foundation for calendars, navigation, and scientific inquiry. Legal codes, administrative practices, and economic systems influence governance far beyond Mesopotamia itself. In these enduring contributions, the civilization demonstrates that legacy is both practical and poetic, tangible and intellectual, temporal and timeless. Sleep now, beneath the quiet glow of stars mirrored in the rivers. Imagine the cities alive with commerce, ritual, artistry, and human endeavor, their inhabitants observing, learning, creating, and connecting. Picture the scribes recording history, the artisans shaping objects of beauty, the priests performing rituals, and the kings governing with awareness of both earthly and divine order. Feel the continuity of life, the careful transmission of knowledge, and the resonance of culture across time and space. In every stone, tablet, and riverbank lies the pulse of civilization, steady, patient, and enduring. The legacy of Mesopotamia is ultimately a reminder of human potential. It demonstrates how observation, creativity, ingenuity, and collaboration shape civilization, leaving an imprint that survives beyond immediate circumstances. It teaches that knowledge, culture, ethics, and art are intertwined, and that the rhythm of human life is enhanced by reflection, imagination, and care. Even as empires fade and cities vanish, the ideas, practices, and principles endure, flowing like the rivers that shaped the land itself, connecting past, present, and future in an unbroken current of memory and meaning, through the gentle murmur of the Tigris and Euphrates, through the careful inscriptions of cuneiform tablets, through the melodies of music, the patterns of art, and the stories of heroes. Mesopotamia whispers its lessons to those who listen. Civilization is a delicate weave of observation, labor, imagination, and spirit. Every contribution, no matter how small, participates in the continuity of human endeavor. Every act of creativity, devotion, and intellect carries forward the essence of culture and knowledge. Sleep now, carried on the rivers and the stars, enveloped in the quiet endurance of a civilization that shaped humanity in countless ways. Feel the pulse of Mesopotamia,